Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another episode of A View from Tracy's Point. And today we are recapping Welcome to Sweetie Pies Season 4, Episode 6, which is titled Something's Gotta Give. So I am so happy that Sweetie Pies is finally back, and I was waiting for it to come back for like, what, two weeks now, 3 weeks, and then I forgot to watch it when it came on Saturday night, and just remembered today that I hadn't done the recap, so I do apologize for that. So the show opens up and we're in St. Louis, and Miss Robbie and Jan, they go to like a restaurant supply store, and she's getting ready to buy the kitchen equipment for her new restaurant, which is the Hamburger Heaven. And so Miss Robbie was naming off the things that they're going to be selling at the restaurant, and one of them was fried bologna sandwiches. And I don't know about y'all, but this girl here loves herself some fried bologna with mayonnaise. I'm about to head to the grocery store as soon as I finish this recap so I can buy me a pack of bologna and make me a sandwich. And then Miss Robbie also makes the little snide remark that opening Hamburger Heaven is going to be much easier and better to run because it's going to be like a walk-in restaurant like they used to do. Well, not a restaurant, but like a walk-in where you just get your food and then you leave. And then she says, unlike, you know, what Tim is trying to do out in California. So she seems to still be a little perturbed with Tim opening up these restaurants out there. Then we have Cousin Michelle, and she's at, I can't remember which one of the restaurants she was at, but Naya, who is Monique's daughter and Linda's granddaughter, she's working at the restaurant and she's working the drive-through window. And Naya's like, and Cousin Michelle is like, I need to keep my eye on that girl right there. And so she catches Naya eating, you know, like in between customers, and she's trying to explain to her that she can't do that, and that, you know, because they're related to Miss Robbie, that they have to be much better than the other employees and set the example, because if the employees see them doing something wrong, then they'll think that it's okay for them to do it as well. And so Naya doesn't seem to be getting it, and Cousin Michelle is over Naya and ready for Naya to go back to school, but Naya let her know she already back in school and she's going to be working full-time and going to school. So I don't know if Naya may have to find another restaurant to work at, or if Cousin Michelle's going to end up firing her. Then we head out west to California, and Chloe and Vic, I think it was the fry cook guy, you know, they start to dog out Chef Clark, and it just seems that everybody hates Chef Clark, and nobody thinks she knows what she's doing. But I think it has more to do with the fact that the people that came from St. Louis are so resistant to change, and the way that the business is set up, you know, you have all these people that think they're in charge. And so whereas Chef Clark is used to structure, there is no structure with these people that seem to have come from St. Louis to California. And so Chloe, you know, she's listening to the people complain about Chef Clark changing the schedule and all these different things, you know, changing the recipe and telling them how to cook the food. So she decides that someone needs to go and check Chef Clark. And I don't know how she's going to do that, because I swear on the last episode, Tim put Chef Clark in charge, so then that would make Chloe a subordinate. Then we have Tim and Charles, and Tim is taking charge to yet another business venture that he has started. So this time he called it Live. It was either Live for Forever or Live Forever. But anyway, he's bought this office building, and he has his own office there. And then I think he said he was going to move Danielle into the office. So basically what he wants to do is offer an array of services to businesses, from production, branding, brand management, social media marketing, and then some other stuff that he said. And then I think maybe he will lease out some of the offices. I know here they do these things called lofts, and it's where somebody goes in and they buy a building, and then they create these small rooms for like small business owners who probably work from their home. But if you have to meet with a client, then you pay a membership to these type buildings, and you take your clients into one of the offices whenever you need to meet with them. And then they have like copier equipment and, you know, other office machines that you can use that you may not have at your home office. And so I'm thinking that's kind of what Tim is trying to do here. And he, you know, he's taking Charles on a tour, and he basically has done furnished the building and has all the equipment. And Charles is sitting there like, you know, you can come up with all these ideas and do all these grand things, but when are you going to give me a raise or give the other people at the restaurant a raise? And, you know, he's thinking that it's really unfair what Tim is doing. Oh, and Charles also mentions that instead of opening new businesses, Tim needs to focus on getting those 2 restaurants open. And I kind of agree with Charles on that. So then we're back at TJ's, and Chef Clark seems to be getting along with the employees that were talking about her earlier to Chloe. And so, you know, she thinks things are going smoothly, and they appear to be going smoothly until Chloe shows up. And so Chloe, you know, she says she's going to talk to Chef Clark because the other employees are scared to talk to her and, you know, don't want to stand up to her. And so I'm thinking if Chloe worked anywhere else, she would have been fired a long time ago. So she sits down with Chef Clark, and Chef Clark was really being kind of calm and letting Chloe vent. And so then when Chloe got to the point where she was kind of like really being disrespectful and insulting Chef Clark, then Chef Clark says, okay, it's over. I'm not, you know, continuing this conversation with you. So she gets up to walk away, and then Chloe comes after her, and she's cursing the lady out, and one of the other employees had to jump across the counter to get Chloe, because I think Chloe had walked out, but then she came back even madder than she was before. And so the other employee jumped over the counter, got Chloe, and pushed her out of the place. And I'm just thinking, if you worked anywhere else, they would have escorted your butt off of the premises, you know. But I blame Tim for this mess, because instead of him trying to be a businessman and you know, a business mogul, as he put it, he needs to be over here at this restaurant getting things under control, because every week is some drama going on at that restaurant. And obviously the people that you have in control, or you have too many people in control, is not working out. So maybe Tim needs to get over there and do his job. So then later in the day, Chloe returns to the restaurant, and Chef Clark has gone to lunch. And so she wants to apologize to the team members, you know, for the way that she behaved. And she's letting them know that, you know, she did what she did for them because somebody has to stand up for them. And, you know, they're kind of like looking at her like, girl, we appreciate it, but please don't make us lose our job. You know, we shared those things with you, not for you to go back and repeat what we said. So Chloe gonna learn the hard way. And then now it's time, you know, for the love fest, and Bruce comes in. So he's there, and Chef Clark, you know, she isn't ready to argue with him, you know, because she's already had a rough morning. And so she fills him in on, you know, the argument with Chloe and how disrespectful Chloe was. And so he kind of like lets her know that, you know, they're from the hood, and, you know, it's tit for tat where they come from. So if, like, she did something to Chloe's going to retaliate, and it's just back and forth. But Chef Clark tells him that they're no longer in the hood, that she's trying to teach them a better way of doing things, and that she really needs them to get on board. And then Bruce lets her know that, you know, sometimes it's not what you do, is how you do it and the way you talk to people. And I think Chef Clark told him that he was acting like a child, and she even called him stupid. So I do agree with Bruce that, you know, you have to give respect in order to receive respect. But I still believe, above all, Tim needs to get his butt in that restaurant and get everybody straightened out and define everybody's role, so that there's no doubt about who's in charge and who's making the decisions. So I'm not sure if it was the same day or if it was a couple of days later, but Tim is at TJ's, and Chef Clark lets him know that she needs to talk to him about the incident that happened with Chloe. So I don't know if they don't have an office in the restaurant, or if there's no privacy in the office, but seems like whenever they need to have a serious conversation, they head out back outside in like the alley or whatever. And so Tim knows that it's something big, you know, because they have to go outside. And so Chef Clark made it clear that she wanted to have a one-on-one conversation with him. But as soon as she told him what happened, then he calls Charles out there, and he asks Charles, you know, why didn't you tell me this happened? And Charles said, well, I heard about it, but I wasn't here when it happened, and I didn't think it was my place to tell you. And then Tim is upset that neither Chef Clark or Charles called him immediately when it happened. And then somehow Bruce got pulled into it. I think Chef Clark mentioned she had talked to Bruce about it. So he calls Bruce out there, and Tim pretty much says that if Chloe worked anywhere else, she would be fired, that nobody else would put up with this. And I agree with it. And so he tells Charles that, since him and Chloe are friends, then he, what does he think should happen to Chloe? And of course, Charles is trying to take up for her, but then he asks Chef Clark, and Chef Clark says, I think she should be fired. And Bruce said that he thought she should be fired also. Yeah, I think they both said she needed to be fired. And, of course, Charles said he disagreed. And then Tim, he said, okay, well, we're going to suspend her. And I need you to be the one, you want to be a manager, step up and act like a manager. So I need you to be the one to tell Chloe that she's suspended. And so then I think they agreed. No, they didn't agree on the number of days at that time. So, of course, Charles is feeling some kind of way. And then Tim walks away after he tells Charles that, whatever Chef Clark says, that's what Charles is supposed to do. So whatever if she says somebody needs to be suspended or written up or whatever, that Charles has to do it. So after Tim walks away, then Charles turns around and tells Chef Clark pretty much, this is the one and only time I'm doing this, and going forward, you got to handle stuff yourself. And then Chef Clark went to say something, and then Bruce was like, yeah, because I'm not doing this either. And then it just goes back to the whole problem at the restaurant. Everybody wants to be in charge, but nobody wants to take the responsibility and do what it takes to actually manage the restaurant and be the one in charge. Then we have Danielle, the social media person. And so she wants to meet with Tim, and she has written out a business plan for the restaurant. And so even though she's been doing the social media, she doesn't feel that she's being paid what a social media specialist would get paid. So she has her proposal all written out about ideas she has for marketing the restaurants and promotions that they could do, and just being very professional about it. And she goes over it with Tim, and then she tells Tim, that she wants to go from being an hourly employee to actually being salaried and having like a real position. And of course, Tim thinks that her ideas are good, but he's not ready to make that move yet. We learned before they went on break that Jennifer Williams of Basketball Wives Miami is now Tim's new love interest. And so she comes into the restaurant, and I don't understand how you date somebody that owns a soul food restaurant, but you don't want to eat none of the food because, you're trying to watch your weight. But Tim is telling her, no, you got to try something, So I think she decided on some greens. And while she's there, she starts talking about her business and how she's just so overwhelmed because she has to do everything herself. And then Tim thinks that this is a good idea and a good opportunity for Danielle to showcase her skills. And he tells Jennifer, all about his plan for the Live Forever or Live Forever. And that he thinks that Jennifer and Danielle should work together. And of course, Jennifer's open to meeting Danielle and seeing what Danielle can do to help her with some of the duties in promoting her business. Then we have a later scene where Charles arrives at the Live Forever office complex, whatever it is, and he sees Jennifer, so he's trying to figure out, okay, well, who is this? Because Jennifer's there with some clothes on the rack, like she's about to set up shop into place. And then Tim, introduces Charles to Jennifer, and I'm trying to think now, if you're dating Jennifer Williams from Basketball Wives, you would have told your family by now, but Charles is acting like, he doesn't know who Jennifer is, and he's all surprised that Tim has this woman, and, what is the relationship? So then they eventually tell him that they're dating, but still haven't said that she's from Basketball Wives or anything, or make it seem like Charles has made the connection that Jennifer has been on TV before, and she's like semi-famous. And so Jennifer, she's talking to Charles and, being very engaging and welcoming. And so Charles is like, okay, but why are these clothes here? And then Tim, lets him know that Jennifer has a clothing line, and I guess she's moving into one of those offices. And so Charles is sitting there like, once again, why do you help other people, but then you keep pushing me to the back burner? And then I think before Charles left, Jennifer, suggested that they go to dinner together, that, he joined Tim and her for dinner. And I think Tim also told Charles that him and Jennifer were going to St. Louis because he wanted her to meet Miss Robbie. And then Jennifer made some little comment like she heard Miss Robbie was hard to deal with or something. I'm thinking that was like really inappropriate to say that about his grandmother. But Charles says that Miss Robbie is a piece of work, but he doesn't think Jennifer has anything to worry about. Charles makes it back to the restaurant and he still has not contacted Chloe and told Chloe that she needs to be suspended. And so he goes and he talks to Chef Clark and, lets her know that, he needs to talk to Chloe and how many days does she want her suspended for and when is it effective. And so Chef Clark says that she should be suspended for 3 days and it should be effective immediately. So after that scene, we head out to St. Louis and Tim and Jennifer, they're arriving and they go to this racetrack because Tim wanted to go back to St. Louis because he bought a race car. It was like a Corvette, souped up Corvette. And so they're at the racetrack and the family comes in. It was Miss Robbie, TJ, Jan's husband, and one of Jan's daughters. And so we get in this conversation where Tim is talking about, his love for race cars and racing. And he says that, people used to always tell him that his dad liked cars and his dad liked racing. So he thinks that, he inherited that trait from his dad, even though he never had the opportunity to meet his dad. And so, Miss Robbie and Jennifer, it wasn't like any grand staging. It was basically, hi, how you doing? And then every now and then, they would say something to each other. And I think that was kind of normal for how it is when you first meet somebody. You just like want them to like you. That's all you're concerned about. And so Miss Robbie, she still wants to confront Tim about opening all those businesses, but decides to wait because he seems happy, with his new car and with his new girlfriend. So she's going to put it off a little while longer. Oh, what I forgot to mention when I was talking about what was going on in St. Louis, we did have a scene where Miss Robbie heads back to the church and the piano plays there. And Miss Robbie says she wants to try out this new song that she wrote, or it was a song she wrote a long time ago, but now she wants to record the song. And so she starts playing on the piano, and it was sounding a lot like giving him something he could feel from, what was that movie, Sparkle? That song was so popular. And I think Aretha Franklin used to sing it, and then In Vogue came back and did the remake. But anyway, Miss Robbie started singing her lyrics, and it was a nice song, nice bluesy, song. I don't know how it's going to work out in today's times, but I think back in the day we would have liked the song a lot. And so Miss Robbie said she's going in the studio and she's going to record some of her songs. And I'm thinking to myself, and you wonder why Tim all over the place starting stuff when he haven't finished anything. He gets it from you, Miss Robbie, because you're supposed to be opening Hamburger Heaven, and here you are trying to cut a track. So back in California, Charles has to finally get his task of the day over with, and he has to let Chloe know that she's been suspended. So he starts telling her, that any other employee that did the things that she did would have been fired. And she immediately cuts him off and goes off and talking about, justifying why she behaved the way that she did and saying, how Chef Clark pushes her buttons and everything. And so she then asks, how he knows about the conflict because he wasn't there the day that it happened. And so he tells her that because she had the argument with Chef Clark couldn't write her up, so he was tasked, with doing it. And so Chloe, she's really pissed off when she finds out that she's been suspended. And he lets her know that it's for 3 days. And then she says, well, when is it effective? And then she cuts him off again and says, that's fine. I'm leaving now and y'all can deal with this. And, but she's going to get some get back. And so for the first time, Charles has to acknowledge that Chloe got some issues and that she's going to mess around and get herself fired. And then he even said that if Tim had been the one sitting there talking to her and she acted that way, that Tim would have fired her on the spot. So what do you guys think? Does Chloe need to be fired? Leave your comments below and let's get the conversation started. Rate the video and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, take care. Bye-bye.